Hello and welcome back to Graff Woodshop. My name is Josh Graff and today we're going to be making these Adirondack chairs. I'm just going to show you guys how to make one, but I am making two as I go throughout this. These chairs are based off of a design by Steve Ramsey, and if you want to get the plans for them, I'm going to put a link in the description down below so that you can go check them out. I'm going to be using today 6 8-foot long 1x4s. We're going to be working with cedar today. And also for the nice big wide armrest that you see on all the Adirondack chairs, I'm actually going to be using one cedar fence picket to do those arms. So that's the plan. If you want to follow along, keep watching. Let's get after it.
So the first thing I'm going to be doing is taking 4 of the 1x4s and cutting them down to length. Both of the seat sides are 37.5 inches. We have 2 seat braces, which are both 19 inches. The front legs are both 23 inches. Another 19-inch long piece for a back brace. And then we have the 5 slats. 2 of the slats are 30 inches. The middle 2 slats are 31 3/4 inches. And then the final tallest back slat is 33.5 inches. Just a reminder that the plans for these are going to be linked down in the description below if you need to come back and refer to any of those measurements. I'm then going to take the 2 other 1x4s and rip them down to length. I'm going to end up with 1.5 inches left over from each side of them once I'm all done, so a total of 4 1.5 inch boards once we're all finished ripping these to length. The majority of these thinner pieces are going to be for the seat slats. I ended up with 17 of the seat slats that are 20.5 inches long. Also, we're going to put 2 pieces for arm braces that are both 24 inches long, and then one 22-inch long piece that is going to be a brace for the back of this chair. But yeah, just setting this stop on my miter saw to 20.5 inches and cutting lots and lots of seat slats. For the arms of this Adirondack chair, I actually used a fence picket. You could use a 1x6 as well, but both of the armrests came out to 30 inches long, and I got those all cut. And then I also cut 2 little 4.5 inch square for the arms as well. And now it's time for lots of sanding. One thing to note, if you're using fence pickets for any parts of this, they take quite a bit more sanding than the rest, so just keep that in mind when you're deciding whether to use fence pickets or regular 1x6s for this project. So here's a nice little sanding montage for all of you guys. Point, I am rounding over all the edges that need to be rounded over, including both ends of my seat, both sides of it. And that's what I'm going to do first, as well as each of the 5 back slats. I did not at this point round over the bottoms of my front legs or the ends of my armrest, but I would suggest going ahead and doing this now. Just finding some sort of circle that is the right size for the end, drawing your circles, and then cutting them out with a jigsaw. The jigsaw doesn't leave the nicest edge in the world, so I also went ahead and took a sander and just smoothed them up to make them look a lot nicer. that blade on the jigsaw flex a little bit, especially when you got a couple boards stacked together like I do here. So cleaning that up with the sander is definitely the way to go. Before I start assembly, I always like to get a nice clean work area to on before I start putting things together. So I'm taking both my seat sides and the two braces in between them, and I'm just connecting everything together, making sure everything is nice and square. Before I put the screws in, I am going to pre-drill my holes. One thing to note on this project, since it's going to be outdoors, everything we are using is good for the exterior. We're using some cedar wood, which is going to help hold up much better than other types of wood, as well as Titebond 3, and then some exterior decking screws. If you're interested in any of the tools or materials that I'm using today, I will be leaving a link to them down in the description below, so feel free to check that out. And this filming is actually several days later, and it is really cold in Oklahoma today, which I think is causing my brain not to work here, as you'll see in just a minute. But I'm taking each of these 5 back slats and putting them on, pre-drilling 4 holes, then putting 4 of those screws in there, as well as putting a little bit of glue on each of the slats. I'm also picking the nicest face to be shown out so that your back is laying on the nicer side of the board. But yeah, one thing to note when you are putting these in, try to get them as nice straight up and down as possible. You do not want them leaning. As you'll see here in a minute, I had that issue going on. I'm also using a little spacer in between them to get the space in between each one nice and neat. I think if I had used a longer spacer that was actually the whole length of these slats, then I wouldn't have had quite the issues that I ran into. And it's right at this moment that I just made a pretty big mistake. Probably haven't seen it yet, but keep watching. You'll see what's going on here in just a second. And here is the moment where I realized, oops, these pickets are not in the right order. I gotta swap them around, and I am very glad that the glue does not dry in just a matter of seconds. But yeah, tallest one in the middle on your back slats. And there we go, much better now. I'm just gonna blame this little mess up here on it being really cold in Oklahoma on this day. So I'm making a little bit more adjustment, get everything lined up nice and neat how I want it before we put the brace on these back 5 slats to really connect them all together. And this is the point where we're finally going to start using all of those seat slats that we cut. I'm going to glue each of these on and then pre-drill a hole on each end and attach each of them with the same decking screws we've been using. But yeah, here's the first one going onto the back for a little bit more added support, and then all the rest are going along the front. Now these front slats, I am using a little spacer to keep the distance between them equal. And it's a good idea, you actually want to have two of these spacers, one for each side. So I took the one spacer that I had and cut it in half so that I can just use it for each side right here. But yeah, one at a time getting these connected using some Titebond 3 and some decking screws to hold them all into place. And just like that, the seat portion of our chair is finished up. Now it's on to building the legs. So right here, I'm rounding off the corner of those bottom legs. I suggest doing that when we're doing all the other roundings of the corners, but I somehow left it, did it here, went ahead and just hit it with some piece of sandpaper real quick to clean up the edges. But these are going to be the two bottom legs. Got my little shop helper helping out with some sanding, as she always likes to do. When you are building these two legs, just remember that each side needs to be different because you have a left side and a right side. Don't make two rights, don't make two lefts. Make one left and one right. So yeah, just pay attention to that because it's easy to make those mistakes when it's really cold out and you're not so used to it, as we saw earlier. At this point, I decided to wait until it warmed back up to get back out here, but now I am adding the armrest onto our leg pieces. First, this little kind of corner brace here that we have that is cut out of those same cedar planks. I'm just attaching it with some brad nails and some wood glue to hold it into place. And then we are going to also attach the armrest on here as well. If you're needing any measurements for knowing where exactly to place things, don't forget to check out the link in the description down below to the plans that Steve Ramsey made of these. The next thing to do is to actually attach the legs to the seat of the chair. I'm drilling a hole through here, and then I'm actually attaching these with a 3/8 bolt with a washer on the end, followed up with a washer and 2 nuts on the other end. Now, getting the seat attached to the legs, you really need an extra set of hands to do that, is the easiest way to do that. And then I'm using a couple of clamps here to hold them in place while I whack this bolt in here and get it all tightened up. But yeah, an extra set of hands to get this into place and some clamps to hold it together really make this go a lot easier. Now our assembly is almost completed. I've taken a clamp here and pulled the arms over, adding a little bit of wood glue and our final back piece that I'm just going to kind of tack into place here. Let that glue dry to really hold it in there and get everything nice and tight. This just really helps hold the arm pieces over so that they don't fall off. But yeah, here we go. Nice and neat. Now we just need to sand off all this excess glue. I built a second one of these and I did a lot better job of keeping the glue wiped up as I go. Now to coat these, I am using some Thompson's water seal. I've gone with the clear in this case. I just think this cedar really shines through and looks good with the clear Thompson's water seal.
All right, we finally have these finished up now. The weather kind of slowed me down, but I'm back in the shop, got them all done. Very happy with the way these turned out. These two I built for my personal house, but I'm also going to be building some of these to sell. If you got any suggestions on pricing, why don't you leave that in the comments down below so that everybody can kind of take a look at what we think these might sell for in your area. If you guys are interested in seeing any other future projects, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you could hit that like button, that really helps me out. But thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.